Okay, we're going to start from Hamava Behever on Gimel Amud Beis. That's 10, 15, about 16 lines from the bottom. So, okay, thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. And the schos of our learning, we should have the Beis HaMikdash. It starts like this. We're quoting from the Mishnah the last two of the four for the Avos Nezikin. First was Hashar V'Abar, the ox in the pit. And the last two are B'Hamava B'Hever, Mava and Hever. So we have to figure out what Mava and Hever is. Hey, good morning. So the Gemara says, "My Mava." What is Mava? What is the meaning of Mava? So we have classic. We have Machlekes Rav and Shmuel. Rav Amar Mava Z'Adam. Rav says Mava is a person that causes damage. So we're dealing with categories of types of damage. So one of the damage was an ox that causes damage. Another was a pit that causes damage. But now we have a person that causes damage. Okay. And Shmuel Amar Mava Z'Ashen. Shmuel says that Mava is actually an ox that causes damage with its mouth. Shane. We explained that Shane meant that it was Hana that had the enjoyment from the damage that it caused. Now we have to figure out what is Shar. We're gonna have to go back. The Gemara is gonna give us a few options then. Okay. So we discussed the Mava that it says in the Mishnah, the word Mava. I don't know what it means, but Rav Amar Mava Z'Adam D'Ksiv. Rav quotes a pasuk that he uses as a source that Mava means a person. It says Omar Shaimer, the watchman says, it's actually referring to Hashem. Asa Biker, the morning comes, which means like the redemption. V'gam Laila, and it's also darkness, which means that it'll be a punishment time. Im Tivon Bayav, if you want to return. If you want to do tshuva, bay is to seek or something. Then seek. Okay. So what it's talking about is that a person can daven, a person can ask Hashem for forgiveness. So when it uses the word tivon, which is close to the word mave, which means that it's a person. That's something that a person does. Shmuel says mave zeh that mave means the tooth, the tooth that causes damage, which we explained means the enjoyment that it gets from the damage. Okay, that's where we're holding. Yeah, we just didn't get a pasuk for Shmuel. What is Shmuel's pasuk? Shmuel Amar Mava Z'Ashen D'Ksiv Eich Nechpersu Eichav Nivu Matzpunav. How could how does it search out Esav? It seeks its treasures, its hidden things away. My mashma, what does that pasuk mean? So could the Matargim Rabbi Yosef, like Rabbi Yosef translates that pasuk, Echtein isbalish Esav. How is Esav looted? Iskalin matmaroi, his will be revealed what he has the hidden treasures that are away. Okay, well, but how does that have to do with Shane? I think what it means is that because the tooth is sometimes hidden and sometimes revealed, so it's considered the nivu matzmunav means it will be revealed. It's referring to the tooth because the tooth gets revealed. Yeah. The mouth.
The first piece of the future destruction of the nation.
Adam, right? Yeah, Adam is Esav. Right.
So that's what it was about.
Well, Tosfos over here says that we're saying that Rabbi Yosef is saying the Targum. Don't say that it's because Rabbi Yosef was blind and he wasn't able to study the Torah by heart. Because if that was the issue, then we have a rule, that if in special times of need you are allowed to learn the Torah by heart, and there would be, if he was blind, there would be no would be no problem with that. Yitzi posted that the tooth will come out. What is he referring to? Let me see that again.
Maybe like when someone loses a tooth.
Tooth. Maybe it means the truth. Is that what he's saying? The truth will come out. Okay.
That's probably the only. I mean, the nail you cut, the tooth literally falls off.
Here it literally means to seek out matspun of the hidden things, and the Targum says that it means it becomes revealed, comes open. Okay, my time alayama Rav, my time alayama Kishmal. How come? You see, what's going on over here is that I have two psukim. Could say one pasuk is telling me it's talking about a person, another pasuk is telling me that it's referring to a tooth. So how come Rav that says it's referring to a person? Why doesn't he say like Shmuel that says it's referring to a tooth? Amalach miktani nive. Does it say nive in the passive that it is revealed, right? Not that it reveals, but it will reveal. It doesn't say it is revealed. It says it will reveal, right? So that means it's not talking about the tooth. It's talking about someone that reveals maybe something that reveals the tooth. Shmuel, my time alayam Rav. Why doesn't Shmuel say like Rav that says it's talking about a person? Amlach miktani bua. Does it say? You see, tivon is is not describing the person. Im tivon bayav. If he asks for forgiveness, ask for forgiveness. Right? It's not talking about the person. Well, it's talking about the verb, not the person that does the verb, that does the action. Okay. Michti. Umar says, "Cry like my dike, like my dike." These psukim are not perfect matches, not for Rav and not for Shmuel. So Rav, my time alayam Shmuel. Why does Rav not really say like Shmuel that we're talking about the tooth, right? We're looking for 4 types of damages. According to Rav, one of them is a person. People cause damage. According to Shmuel, instead of saying a person causes damage, he says that it's the tooth that causes damage, means the animal that eats.
Can you make the case that because the other 3 categories do not cover the human aspect, that therefore that could mean that? Or?
Yeah, but you could probably take that 2 ways. You could say the Gemara is actually going to mention that, but you could say we're not talking about human damages, we're only talking about animal damages. That could be a support for Shmuel. Right? The Gemara is going to mention that.
I was going to say something similar though, because you would ask why is the question and not directly something that uncovers the truth.
Right.
Because again, thinking of a man, is that the only thing a man can damage differently from all these other things is Lashon Hara.
Oh.
To do Lashon Hara, you have to use your lips, which means you uncover your teeth.
Wow.
Very good. The animals don't talk Lashon Hara.
I'm sure they do it in their own language. How would you know?
What was
We'll give you that.
What was the story with this person that he came to this Rebbe? They apparently they said that if someone doesn't speak Dvarim B'Teilim or something, it doesn't speak Lashon Hara for 40 days, Eliyahu is supposed to reveal himself. Anyway, I think he came to the Rishner or something. And the Rishner was outside, like teaching. It was like preparing the horse or something. So the person comes in. He says, "This horse also didn't speak Lashon Hara for 40 days." Okay. So Rav, my time like Shmuel. So how come Rav doesn't say like Shmuel that it's talking about any animal, that's causing damage with its mouth? So he says Tana Shar v'chol milei d'shar. We already said Shar. We have Shar. The first type of damage, the 1 out of 4, was the animal. So it included in that is if it gores, if it tramples, if it eats, it has everything in it. Shmuel Nami Atanali Shar. That's a good kasha. So how does Shmuel say that Mava means Shane when it's eating? If we already had number 1 was in the animal. says, I'm Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, Rav Yehuda is a student of Shmuel. So he's like protecting Shmuel. He's also a student of Rav, by the way. He says, Tana Shar Lakarna Yamav L'Shinei. He was talking about, when it said Shar, it was talking about Keren, which we learned that Keren means that it gores, which means it has intention to cause damage. And then when it says Mava, it's talking about when it has enjoyment, when it causes damage. It's not intentional. It's just because it's enjoying the food that it's eating. Now we're going to do the Loy Ares. Loy Ares this. If it would have said this, we wouldn't have known that, right? It says, Loy Roy Keren, Sheina Nala Zeke, Kraya Shein Shesha Nala Zeke. If it would have only said Keren, I would have said that you're chayav by Keren because it doesn't have enjoyment when it's doing the damage. But Shane, it has enjoyment when it's doing the damage. Then how can you even think of trying to control an animal like that we should make him responsible? Here, the logic goes like this, that the reason why a person is obligated to pay for the damage is because he should have watched his animal. Yeah. Now, if the animal has enjoyment when it's doing it, you can't stop. The kid splashing in the puddle, you can't stop it. It's that's an inus, you know. So the animal's running after his food. Yeah, I was watching the animal, but what do you want from me? There was food there. You know what I'm saying? So if it would only say Keren when it gores, so we'd say, okay, that you should stop the animal. But over here, when it has enjoyment, we'd say that that's an inus. So we wouldn't know that it would be chayiv. And if it would only say Shane doesn't have when it's eating. It's not intentional when it's doing the damage. It's just eating. But how can you expect to stop an animal that's going to gore? It becomes a wild animal. You can't stop it then. It was like in its out of control. It was goring someone. So that would be an inus. I would have said that an inus means that it's like beyond unpreventable. Very good. Unpreventable. Very good. Okay. Okay, now the Gemara says, is that really the way you want to view this? That the lav kal v'chaimeru. If this is the way you're going to view the loyri zekri zeh, then you really have a kal v'chaimer here, because it says shein kavanas lahazak chayev. If that's the way you're going to do it, then look at it like this: if shein, which it doesn't even have intention to cause damage, but nevertheless you're chayiv. Keren shekavanas lahazak like kolshkin, then for sure when it has intention to cause damage, you should be chayiv. So what's shifting over here? Is that we're not considering it anymore an inus. We're saying that if you're chayiv for something that wasn't intentional damage, for sure you should be chayiv for intentional damage. It's exactly the opposite.
No, but switching the subjects. Before we said the shame was the one that was intent because he got a note from it. Now we're saying it's the Karen that he gets a note from it. No. Because the shame is just wrote.
No, before what was happening before is we said that the fact that it's hana lahazeka, I'm sorry, the fact that it's kavanas lahazek would be a reason to make me pater, because it's so intent on causing damage. Maybe that's considered an inus, and it's beyond your control. Now we're saying no, it's not. There's no inus here. You have an obligation to guard your animal. If you're chayiv when it doesn't have intent, then for sure you're chayiv when it has intent. So we just flipped the whole thing around. Before we were saying that if you're chayiv when it doesn't have intent, maybe when it has intent you should be pater, because that's an inus. And now we're saying no. If you're pater, if you're chayiv when it doesn't have intent, then for sure you should be chayiv when it has intent.
I thought before we said the intent was because it was eating it.
That was one point. That was by that.
Then if you say that's like an addiction, it's its nature. That's what it does. There's no intent there. It's just something it's got to do. But now we're flipping and saying, no,
No, because before we said
No.
two things. Before we said we had a reason to make Shane Potter and we had a reason to make Karen Potter. Reason to make Shane Potter is because by Shane it has enjoyment, and that would be an inus. When am I? Because it's too as pleasure. How are you supposed to stop it? Now we flip the whole thing. Now we say if you're Potter for something if you're chayav for something that isn't without enjoyment, for sure you should be chayav for enjoyment. The obligation gets stronger, not less. No, that was the first. That was the Havamina. How could I stop it? Now we flip it. Now we say no, exactly the opposite.
Why do you have to say how can
Yeah, that's right. That's what we're saying now. That was the problem. The Gemara originally thought that if it would have said Keren, it's chayiv, okay, I wouldn't have known Shane because Shane, maybe I would think you're Potter. Now, why is Shane Potter? I said because he has enjoyment. Now, the Gemara is not saying like what? I wouldn't have been right, which means that I wouldn't have been able to say that just because of this, you're chayiv. That's why you need both. Yeah. Right. What happened?
I'm trying to teach you how to use the
But
chassis.
it has this cool feature that whenever it has like a verse, you click on the verse,
And it opens up.
and it'll match the commentary to the verse.
Because
I'm not there yet.
besides the hyper, I'm just saying, he asked him why he doesn't use the colors.
Oh,
Because in the colors, it always matches up, even if he's not using
Oh.
the keyboard. Wherever you want, if
Right.
there's a note. And now if you hit in the note, then it brings up the hyperlink of the first.
Oh.
That's four, and then all this is a commentary.
Okay. See.
Sounds very complicated.
Just trying to.
Maybe it only works on the iPad, not on
No,
the.
it's the same thing. He
Uh-huh.
just, he doesn't want to do it.
I just use an app.
Yeah, you do.
Okay. The Gemara now says Itzchich. I'll cover it. So it's Itzchich. No, it's necessary to say Keren. What are we saying now? If it would have said Shane, Shane does not have kavana to cause damage. So I would have understood that Keren that has kavana to cause damage is a kal v'chaimer should be chayv. If it's intentional damage, for sure you should be chayv. The Gemara says, so why does it have to say Keren? That's the Gemara's question. The Gemara says, it's sal kadait chamina midi dehavi eved vam. I could have thought, just like by a eved or an amma, a slave or a slave woman. What happens over there is that when a slave causes damage, not to his master, but to someone else, the master doesn't have to pay for that damage. It's the rule. So I could have thought, even though they have intention to cause damage, they like run, what do they do? They vandalize things or whatever. They want No, I think it's kavanasi lahazik. They're doing it on purpose. They're causing damage. They're vandalism, and nevertheless they're pater. So achinami leishna, I would think by the animal also you should be pater. The Gemara says Amar Ravashi atu eved vaval lav time rabis. No, you can't compare the slave to the animal that causes damage. Both of them intentional. By the slave that causes damage, there's a big reason why he's pater. Maybe the master makes the slave angry. What did he do? He said, how come you weren't here this morning on time? They said, oh, you're going to tell me what time to come. He'll go light his neighbor's storage. His Scottish, his haystack or whatever. And then he's going to make his master pay 100 mana every single day. Why? Because the master told him the wrong thing. He says, oh, you're going to tell me what to do? I'll go give you a bill. And, right?
Was he doing that so that not only will the master owe his neighbor money, but to pay it off, he'll say, I'll just take my slave. So he doesn't want to work for me anymore. So it sets it up.
So there's a reason here why the sages said that it's slave that causes damage. The master doesn't have to pay for it. Yeah.
So
No one. It's called pigiyas and ra. It's just a problem. The slave doesn't really have money to pay for it.
So in that case, it's an
Who should buy
incentive
it?
to release him.
You mean when he
So
became a slave? Yeah, but no, but we're talking about not an Eved Ivri. We're talking about an Eved Kanani. He's owned. He was no one. There was no. He doesn't have any bank account.
That's really
There's nothing.
unfortunate for the
For the other, it is unfortunate. Right. It's a big problem. It's a big problem. But the other way was worse, and I guess that's why the sages said that the master doesn't have to pay, or else the slave would like control the whole situation. You know. Yeah. Maybe that helps. Do they give lashes to the slave that causes damage like that?
Oh, that's true.
It's a great question.
Yeah, the only thing is that giving him lashes doesn't give money to the guy that
So you might
that
prevent
just
him
lost
from
it.
doing it.
It's the same thing.
No, but the fact,
They put people in prison, and wherever they did harm to, they never get reimbursed.
right. Okay, so let's see where we're holding. We were saying that why does it need to say Karen? If you chayav for Shane, for sure you chayav for Karen. The Gemara says no, maybe Karen is pater just like the master's pater when a slave causes damage. So the Gemara says that is not logical at all because that has a special reason. There's no reason to say that Karen should be pater because it had intention to do damage. By a slave, we have reason to say it should be pater. The animal has no thing. Oh, you fed me late. There, I'm gonna go eat someone else's thing, and and so therefore we have to make the master pater. There's no not eat over here. We're saying Karen. I'm gonna go gore someone to. Doesn't elaparachachi. Rather, we have to do it differently. Karen say like this. If it would have only said Karen, I would have said that the reason why Karen is chayiv is because kavanas lahazik has intention, but Shane is not kavanas lahazik. Shane should be pater. So therefore, it has to say Shane. Let's say it only said Shane. It's Shane. We're not talking about shogig and mezid because by an animal there's no shogig or mezid. There's no, but by an animal it's. See, a person can concentrate or lose concentration. We don't have that claim on an animal if it's concentrating on an animal. Is just an animal, but an animal can have intention to cause damage, and it can have intention to eat. It can have whatever it's doing. It's it's not like I did it absentmindedly or something. Like a person can do something absentmindedly. Be thinking about the Gemara, and he stepped on someone's item. He did it b'shegeg, right? But an animal that doesn't have such a concept of a shegeg. Animal, if it's goring, it's goring. It had intention to this. If it's eating, it's eating. It's the wall. Oh, so then that's just like eating. It's just like eating. It's causing damage by rubbing its back. But it's having hana. Whatever it's doing is always hana. It's either hana or kavanas lahaz. Either intention was angry, intention to do damage, or it had intention for enjoyment. So if it would only say Karen, I would have said Karen is chayiv because it has intention to cause damage. If it would only say Shane, I would say that Shane is chayiv because it has enjoyment. Could have thought that maybe the enjoyment that the animal got is something that you have to pay for. When you go to the spa or something, you have to pay for that. When your animal goes to the spa, what's its spa? It rubs its back on the wall of your neighbor's wall, and knocks it over. Okay.
You just made me realize something with the animal's intent. Try and use Lashon Nakiya, but every morning when I walk my dog, all right, people accidentally step in the wrong spot. But I notice my dog never, it'll like lift the leg as it's going over, never accidentally steps in the spot.
Right.
Dog.
Right. The Gemara later is going to mention that. The Gemara is down here in the third chapter.
Has his dog in
No, but it does mention that animals don't. You can't claim on an animal that it should have looked where it was going or something.
What they do, there's this thing, I'm not sure how true it is, but the horse did not tripping over the same stone.
They know not to.
Yeah,
They know not to. Yeah. Yeah, so the explanation is because they're not thinking about the other things. Well, they're exactly what they're doing is what they're doing.
Walk the rock, right? That's why you take the horse up the mountain. Down the mountain, they know exactly where to start.
What does it mean to buck? When the horse bucks.
It was
First, the rider off.
Like,
Okay.
The thing about intention, there's a law that you cannot intend to monopolize. But how do you know what the intent of the businessman is, right? So then they made a ruling that when you see him monopolizing, he must have intended, because this doesn't happen naturally. It might be, but you have to. It's very rare. Monopoly falls into his hands, so then you could break it up.
What is that?
Economics 1.2.
Yeah, but the guy who wrote that would happen to be Jewish. That's why the idea is that the action implies that he must have intended it. That's from this Gemara, right?
From the after the fact.
Right.
Okay, so now that was Brandeis? Yeah. Oh, really? So, Ellie's sister is the shluchah. So, the Gemara now has shar, and it has shar for who are we holding according to now? We're going according to Shmuel, and I have shar means Karen, and Mava means Shane. Okay, this is where we're holding. So, and we just said that if it would have said Karen, I wouldn't have known Shane. If it would have said Shane, I wouldn't have known Karen. This one has Hana, this one has Kavana. Okay. Gemara says, for Regel Mai, what about Regel? Regel means when it just tramples as it's walking. According to Shmuel, we left out Regel. So Shaira, you left it out. So it says, no, Kishihizik. If you read the end of the Mishnah, it says that when it causes damage, Chav HaMazik, the damager is obligated to pay. Lasuya Regel. That's coming to include, because we said a tzara shava shebehem. The common factor that we find is this: is that it's your money and you're obligated to watch it, and then when it causes damage, you have to pay. It's coming to include Regel. Why do you have to give me a common factor? Common factor has to be including something, right? So it would be including Regel.
So Regel, according to that, would be a tolda?
It's coming from in between. Yeah, it would be in what you learn out from the tzara shava of these four. Gemara says, why doesn't Regel get its own category? Just say 5 categories if you want. But Regel is its own is an important type of damages where it just as it's walking it causes damage. Elama Rava says, drop Karen. Shar means Regel. And Shane is and Mava is Shane. We don't have Karen. Now we're gonna say the Lyris would work like this. If it would only say regel, which means as it tramples, as it walks, so that's because that's a common way of it's very common. It's always walking, right? Animal's always walking. It's always causing damage. Anything on the floor, it's going to get trampled. Shane is ekamatzi. Shane is not so common. So it doesn't always eat. It's when it eats it. Yeah. Well, I guess an animal would always eat, but why is it less as ekamatzi? Yes, it has its own factor. When you put food in
Walking,
front of
what's
an
that?
animal.
Walking is happening all the time.
Right.
I mean, it's walking too, it's not always.
It's not always eating. Okay. Larry, do you have a note there?
For example, a well-fed animal will not necessarily eat any
Oh, a
food.
well-fed animal. Okay, good. Okay, I was thinking that an animal, if you put food in front of an animal, it's going to eat no matter what. It's like chips by Fabrengen. No, it doesn't matter if you had lunch or anything. But that's, I assume that the animal was like that also. But anyway, I guess not. I guess the animal knows when to stop. So that's the difference. What's the difference in an animal and a human?
They also-
Let's test that.
and they get also used to, like, if they always eat the same food, like they won't, like, I guess, like, crave it as much. When you give them like
Oh.
like in like a treat or something like that, I think they'll throw it up at any time.
So that's the same like people. So it goes like this now. We're working with regel. Regel is like and which is in Shane, if it would only said Shane, that has pleasure, but regel doesn't have pleasure, it's just walking, it causes damage while it's walking, and it doesn't have pleasure from that. So I wouldn't have known that you'd be chayiv. The Gemara now asks for Karen Mai, what about Karen? You just dropped Karen Shaira, you leave it out. The Gemara says, a kavamazik lasu Karen. We learn it from the Tzad Shava. It says when it causes damage, you have to pay. That's what we're going to learn Karen. So Vasnai Behedia, why don't you make Karen? Karen is an important type of damage. Why don't you list that clearly? And if you only have 4, so add a 5th one. It says, our Mishnah is only talking about things that pay full price from the very first damage. It's called a muad. It's like forewarned, right? As opposed to Karen, which pays half price the first two or three times, right? That's called a tam. Pain. It's not forewarned, right? So now we have an explanation why the Mishnah left out Karen, because the Mishnah wasn't talking about that whole category of damages when it's intentional damage. We weren't discussing that, but we did include it in Kishihezek Kavamazik, that the Tzad Shava will include it as a derivative of the other 4, but not as one of the main categories. Okay, that was the explanation according to Shmuel, that says Shor in the beginning of the Mishnah means regel. Now, according to the way Rav explained it, and Mave means Shane. Okay. Shmuel, my time Rav. How come Shmuel doesn't say like Rav? That Mave means Adam and Shor means everything. Amalach, he says, Isal Kadai Adam. If you're going to tell me that Mave means Adam, Haktani Seifa, but later on we have a Mishnah, I think on Daf Tesvav, it says Sharamud B'Shar Mazik B'Shus and Nizik V'Adam. It lists V'Adam later on. It says it later, so I don't need a V'Adam in our Mishnah. So listening Beresha, why doesn't it say it here? So it says Beniski Mammon Kamari, Beniski Gufa like Kamari. We're not talking about Niske Gufa when a person causes damage with his own body by punching or breaking or like that. We're talking about his property causes damage. The 4 categories of damages that we listed in our Mishnah, Ba'avis Nezikin, is all when your property causes damage. Your animal, your pit, your fire, something that you did, something that you're obligated to watch, not when you yourself cause damage. Rav Nami Aktani Adam B'Seifa, what does Rav do? It says in the Seifa, it says Adam, and Rav says Mave is Adam, that's one of the 4. Amalach Rav, over there, it's coming to teach me. Over there, it says there's 5 types of tamin, there's 5 types of muad, and that's the Mishnah later on. And over there, it says Adam is the muad, is under the category of muad. Well, over there, it's telling me that Adam goes under that category. The fact that it says it over here is a different story. Over there, it had a different list, and Adam got put in under that list. My loy according to Rav, what are the loy hares? If it would have said this, I wouldn't have done that. It says Hachi Kamer. Loy rishar shemashalim as a kaifer. A shar. It would have only said shar. I would have said shar is chayav. Shar, when an ox kills a person, it has to pay the value of the person. Like this, is the victims or the perpetrators' value, but it has to pay to the family. There's money that gets paid to the family of the.
Is there a concept where the value of the victim, it only applies for women, like half or double or something?
I'm not sure. And I think it was that what the person would be
Or
worth
is that
as a
just
slave.
for
Here, the value would be what the person would be worth as a slave. What they
Oh, as a slave.
yeah, I think. So they have to pay that value when it causes damage. So if it would have only said an ox that causes damage, I would have thought that only an ox is chayiv. An ox has more stringent laws, and as we see that an ox has to pay kaifer when it kills a person. If a person kills, he doesn't have to pay kaifer. See, it's more lenient. Well, Taisvis asks. Naftali, you see that Taisvis? Taisvis says, my chumr hizu. The reason why he doesn't pay kaifer is because he gets the death penalty.
Right.
It's not a saying that, oh, an ox is more strict.
Oh, so we
an
go
ox
with
has
the
to have-
highest
because you
punishment.
gotta go
and
for
we
the
drop
highest
off the
punishment.
lowest
So
one,
it's
right?
not lenient.
It's not really a leniency
Yeah.
that would say that if it would have only said ox, I would have thought only you have to pay for your ox that causes damage. But when you cause damage, you don't have to pay for it because you see, you don't have to pay
It's different from
kaifer.
common law
Answer is that
because
Shaygig also
smaller-
doesn't.
So Taisva
smaller
says,
offenses also
at least the
stack
first
up.
answer over here, Taisva says, and we're not talking about where there's a death penalty. We're talking about when there is no death penalty because he killed by mistake. Okay. So
Payment.
there's no payment.
I think it was by mistake.
No, because there's no payment. We don't actually have a payment in place for someone's death. That's not one of the. There is no what is it, like restitution. There's no. We have punishments if someone kills, but we have no payment when a person kills. Only if an animal kills.
So they will go to, if it's by mistake, they will go to the refuge.
It could be they go to the city of refuge, or let's say there's not, for whatever reason he can't go to refuge either. It was a shegig karav this or shegig, there's different cases. No witnesses. I don't know. No witnesses. Then we can make him chayiv anyway. Well, now there's another law over here. When a person causes damage to another person, right? They have a fist fight. So besides paying for the guy's broken nose or broken arm or whatever they did to him, so he has to pay also for the pain that he went through. He has to pay for the loss of work that he has. He has to pay for his doctor bills, and he has to pay for the embarrassment if it was embarrassing. So there's another four besides for the damages. Damages would mean how much the person is now worth less. He used to be a slave. He used to be a therapist. Those days they didn't have it didn't have the same
Get
meaning.
over it.
So,
But those only apply to a person. They don't apply to
only
anything
apply
else.
to a person. Right. But we would say that when a person causes damage, so because there's arba dvarim, that there's that a person has to pay the four things. So therefore I would say that we see a person's more strict. But when an ox causes damage, you don't have the arba dvarim, maybe you don't have to pay the nesek either. Notice here we have an extra four things. So we're explaining now Rav. Where Rav is talking about that Mava means a person, so we have to go through Leireza. But the common factor is that they all cause damage. It says V'chishar darkel hazik, an ox causes damage. It says b'muad, yeah, it causes damage when it's a muad. Now, what the Gemara's question is, we know that an ox causes damage when it walks. We know that it causes damage when it eats, but we weren't sure that it's darkai to be mazik with keren. Does it just go around goring? It doesn't just go around goring. It's only sometimes it gores. It's not darka. It's not the usual way to. So we say, well, if it's a muad, then it does. If it did it 3 times, then it's forewarned. It causes damage all the time. Muad darka lahazik. If it's a muad, it just causes damage because it did it 3 times. Just keeping the ayat orcho, yes, because once it gets used to that, then it does it all the time. It sees that it can do it. It gets trained to do it.
So all shores and both fights
It's a muad mitchilasei. I forget what it says. Shorha Stadin was a Mishnah on was an ox that was used in a bullfight. What do they call that ox? Is there
Depends who won.
No, the guy is called like a matador or something. Matador.
Yeah, he's a man. And if the ox lost, it's a dead ox.
Chamisha Muadin. I forget where it was. There was it says Shorha Stadin. Okay, it's a Mishnah later on. Adam Darka Lahazik, according to Rav, we said that a common denominator, common factor here is that it's usual to cause damage. One of them is a person, according to Rav. Mava means a person. It says, does a person cause damage? The Yashin when he's sleeping. Yashin Darka Lahazik, sleeping people cause damage? It says, yeah, given the Kaya for Pashad Urcho, because they stretch their legs and bring in and stretch out their legs when they're sleeping. So then, if there would be something there, that would be common for them to cause damage. Okay, now it says Shmirasan Alecha, and
if he's a watchman and he's sleeping on the job, which ends up causing damage, is that the same category, or it has to be active?
Our Mishnah is only talking about active. Yeah, we're gonna see on the next page. Shmirasan Alecha. What Masechta did you learn at Yeshiva University? Remember?
Kiddushin and Sanhedrin. That's the ones I remember.
Okay. Shmirasan Alecha. And
Baba Kamma Daf was in the high school.
Was in high school.
I think so.
Which high school were you in? Oh yeah.
8 years. He was like jail.
So if you would have caused damage as a prisoner in jail, maybe you would, the master doesn't have to pay. Vandalism. Okay, so Shmirasan Alecha, you have an obligation to guard. It says the obligation to guard is on you. It says that's not the right expression if you're dealing with a person. That's a correct expression if you're dealing with property. You have an obligation to guard your property. But Shmirasan Alecha, Adam Shmiras Gufay Alavu. A person is not Shmirasan Alecha. Their obligation is upon you. It's your own. You have to guard yourself. Well, the Gemara says you can't ask that as a question on Rav, because even according to you, Hadatani Karna, we know that Karna also had a brisa, and Karna, that's his name. It's funny, he has a brisa, and it sounds like Karen. It says Arbaves Nezikin Vadam. There's four categories of Nezikin, and one of them is Adam. That doesn't fit perfectly with my Karen thing over here. It doesn't help me remember. Because Shmuel, actually it does. Because Rav holds Shar is V'chol Mili Deshar. According to Rav, when it says Shar, it means Karen, Shane, and Regel. And then Mava means Adam. According to Shmuel, when it says Shar, it only means Regel. And when it says Mava, it means Shane. Yeah, so we have two. So the Mishnah.
Shore means all kinds of cows, female, male, castrated, uncastrated. It means everything.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
That's
what type? For sure. That's Dr. Stein is saying for sure. It's the question is what type of damage the animal is doing goes under the category of shar. So that's a machlekes Rav and Shmuel. According to Rav, every type of damage, and according to Shmuel, only trampling goes under that category. Then when it comes,
once the Gemara said, went through the discussion of Av and Toldos, it
Right.
sort of gave away the punch to this discussion, right? Because Shmuel and Rav don't end up have disagreements about where there's liability. At
Right.
the end, they just disagree about how you get there.
right, that's what it seems. It
Yeah.
seems as they're just arguing on the commentary of the Mishnah. What does the Mishnah mean? Yeah, that's what it seems. So, but Karna has this brisa that says Adam, and Adam Shmiras Gufay Alavu. And how does it say? It says Shmirasan Alecha. It says so. It must be Elikadamale Rabavo Latana. You have to adjust it because Rabavo told the Tana that was teaching the brisa from Karna He said, Tani Adam Shmir Skufayalav. Teach that Adam Shmir Skufayalav. You have to adjust it for Adam, that a person has to watch himself. So Achinami Adam Shmir Skufayalav. So if you're going to fix the Bryce according to Kana, for Rav, you can also fix the Mishnah as well. It's the Adam Shmir Skufayalav. Okay. Maskaflo Rav Mari. Rav Mari has a question. They're getting creative now. Maybe Mava, instead of saying that it means either Adam according to Rav, either Shane according to Shmuel, let's say it means water. Like fire ignites the brushwood, fire boils water. See, water, it says, it uses the word tiva, which means it's just very similar to Mava. The Gemara says, Miksiv mayim nivu. Does it say that water is boiling? It says fire. Tiva eshksiv. It says fire boils the water, not the water is boiling. Right? So we're talking about the subject over here is the fire. So maskeflor of zvid ve'imamavazeish. Okay, have it your way. It's the same mava as fire. The chiksiv tiva be'eshudiksiv because it says fire boils the water. So it says yihachi my hamava ve'hever. So then how do you have hamava ve'hever? We already had fire in the Mishnah. So it says v'chitim meprushika mafaris. So let's say mava means hever. It's explaining what mava means. Yihachi arba shleishavet. Then we're left with only 3 because you said there were 4 categories. Now we're only going to have 3. V'chitim etana shar dis beitarti. Let's do this. Let's say shar means shein and regel. And mava is hever, and which means fire. So you cut it down to 3, and you add 1 into number 1. And so now you're back to 4. It says when it starts off, it says this and this that have ruach hayim. They're not similar to fire. It says 1 second. Eish, my ruach hayim is pay. We're talking about shar and mava. If mava means fire, so this and this have a spirit of life. It doesn't have fire. Doesn't have a spirit of life. Assume my kareish, and then how does it say kareish? Like hever doesn't have. You already said fire. It doesn't fit. Yeah, maybe we should stop here. Okay, stop here for Shachris. Okay.
The words like rock, paper, scissors.
I don't remember 1 second.